This video is dedicated to my husband, Henry Watley. I promised him if anything should happen to him that I would do this. This is going to be very difficult for me to do, but I have to do it because at the end of the day, it gives glory to Yah. And that's what we should be doing. In all things, we should be able to glorify God, period. So I'm going to be talking about what this marriage was really used for, and I believe that's the true purpose of marriage. So, of course, before Henry came into my life, I had my own struggles, but, I prayed to God for a godly man so I can get closer to God. And God sent me that particular man. Henry was a very godly man. He really was. That didn't change the fact that when me and Henry got together, we were both broken and battered vessels, but Yah wanted to heal us so he can use us. Nevertheless, Yah used my husband to break strongholds in my life and to get the sin out of my life, because first of all, sin separates us from God. So when Yah got the sin out of my life, I was able to hear his voice for the first time ever. Like, it's literally an audible voice. Like, I can hear the voice of God now. Well, it was like I was activated after this. Like, my husband spent the first couple of years of our relationship to fast and pray for me. Like, he was just going all in. And I just knew that was the Spirit of God within him to accomplish God's will. So, Y'all started after I was activated, or whatever the case may be, after God healed me and cleaned me up and, literally, I was born again. I was able to see things. God started showing me things like through these revelations, and through this I vowed to change my life around. It was because of this Henry and I made drastic changes to our lifestyles. Like, we were definitely committed. It's like Henry was used to help me, and once that was accomplished, I was then used to help him. It was really a beautiful thing. Like, this is the true purpose of a marriage. Like, we became one with each other, and in return, we became one with God. Well, anyway, I'm going to skip forward. There's so much that happened in our marriage that, this video would be extremely long if I go through all the details and all the crazy things, the spiritual things that started happening to not only me, but Henry as well. But I'm going to fast forward, and I'm going to skip to the point where how Henry first got sick and everything like that. So last year, around August, Yah, and if y'all don't understand why I'm calling God Yah, because that's his Hebrew name. So I say Yah. Okay, so when you hear me say Yah, I'm speaking of the Most High. So Yah led me to fast every month from like August all the way to November of last year, 2018. So I chose like a specific day out of each month to fast. And so, I chose Wednesday. So I fasted for about a total of 4 months. So every Wednesday, every month, I would fast. And I don't know why Yah led me to fast, but, he did. Now, of course, I know now why, but, back then I didn't. So during these months of fasting, Yah led me to the book of Job over and over and over again. Like, I didn't understand. I wasn't understanding why at the time he kept leading me to the book of Job. And I read the entire book. And I'm just like, God, what am I missing? What am I missing? I don't understand why you keep leading me to the book of Job. Am I missing something? What are you trying to tell me? And, there was one Wednesday that he made me focus on a specific verse in chapter 33. Well, anyway, during this day, it's like I got extremely sleepy for whatever reason. I mean, not for whatever reason, I know now, but I got extremely sleepy in the middle of my fast. And, I just fell asleep. Well, anyway, when I fell asleep, it's like I woke up, like I was in the heavenlies. Like, if you would imagine what the heavenlies look like, I mean, I didn't really see. I just know I was above the clouds. Like, so I'm saying that was the heavenlies, right? So I'm in the heavenlies, and I look, and in front of me is this huge, like huge scroll. Okay, it was this huge scroll, and it had something written on it. This scroll was bigger than my entire house. Like, it was crazy huge. I mean, I looked like an ant compared to this huge scroll. Well, anyway, so there was a hand. I didn't see God. What I did see was a hand. Okay, like in this hand, this arm, this hand was way bigger than me. It was like, as big as the scroll, like how we would look holding a piece of paper up to our own hands. Like, I don't know how to explain this. It was crazy. All I know, this person was huge. The scroll was huge, and me and God was discussing whatever was on the scroll. It's like he was using his fingers, like, how a teacher point and to whatever's on the chalkboard, and you going over, lessons or whatever with the teacher. Well, that's how it was with me and God. I don't know. It was just like we were going over these things, whatever was written on that scroll, and he was going one by one with me, and I was saying whatever. I don't remember what I was saying. I don't remember what he was saying. I don't remember what was on the scroll. But I'm talking to God in the heavenlies, and then all of a sudden something jolted me out of my sleep, and I jumped up. Now, the room is completely empty. My husband is all the way in the front of the house doing whatever. And what woke me up was the TV. I mean, it was the craziest thing. The TV just jumped on by itself, and it was at 100% volume. That's what woke me up. And I was so pissed off. Like, I was totally pissed off because I was just in the heavens talking to God. Okay, and now the fact that this woke me, I don't know what was said. I don't know what we was talking about. I was extremely upset. I got up out the bed, and I told my husband, I said, oh my God, that TV went off, and I don't know, I was talking to God. I don't know what was being said. I'm so mad I can't remember. And he was like, oh wow, how did the TV, like, that doesn't make any sense. Exactly, I don't know how the TV went on. Well, anyway, I was mad, like, for that day. I was extremely upset. And, God, the Holy Spirit came to me and said, do you think I do things in vain? And I was like, of course I know God doesn't do things in vain, because he allowed me to retain that dream. And for whatever reason, he allowed me to remember what happened. I just don't remember what was said. And so he led me back into the book of Job again. And he led me to the verse 33. And I'm going to read this because this is the most craziest thing. This is how God operates. And he's amazing. But anyway, so chapter 33, verse 14. And it says, for God speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceiveth not. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of man, and sealeth their instruction. So, that alone, when I read that, I was like, oh my goodness. Now look, verse 14 said God be talking to us, not once but twice, and yet we still don't understand. We still don't see God talking. So God speaks in dreams. He said in a dream, in a vision of the night, right? So what happened though? It said in verse 16, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instructions. So God was telling me that he was sealing instructions into me. That's what was going on in the heavenlies. But I said, God, I don't remember what it was. You know what I'm saying? He was like, he sealed them into my spirit. not my flesh. So of course I woke up, my flesh don't remember, I don't know what I was talking about, my fleshly mind don't remember, but he sealed it into my spirit, and he told me if it's sealed, then it's in there. And my spirit knows what we were talking about, and my spirit is going to carry out the instructions that God has already given me. That's why he told us to abide in the spirit, not in the flesh, because God commands the spirit, but Satan commands the flesh. It's literally two different entities, okay? Two separate species. I mean, the spirit is always going to war against the flesh. So I was like, oh my God, I felt so stupid, because I'm like, I don't remember, but my spirit does. And my spirit, whether I know it or not, whether I'm conscious of it or not, my spirit is going to carry out the will of God regardless. So I told my husband about that and whatever the case may be. But, you know, of course I was still like, I was fascinated, but I was still like, okay, well, I wanted to know what those instructions was and what are they for and what am I supposed to be doing, you know? Well, anyway, so this is me. I was fasting and all the way up until November. So I started in August, you know, and these certain things happened. But I tell you, the entire time of me fasting for these 4 months, God kept sending me to the book of Job over and over and over again. Now we know what happened with Job. He was tested greatly. I mean, everything was taken from Job. Satan had free reign over Job. And even though Job didn't understand what was going on, because Job was a righteous man, so why is all of this happening to me? And Job had these so-called friends of his was like, well, you must have done something wrong. Like basically just not helping Job. Like they were just like, oh, you must have done something wrong. Oh, you being punished, you know. But you know, Job is the only book in the Bible that shows us, you know, what's going on in the spiritual realm, because Satan himself was had permission from God to literally test Job on the greatest level that he could ever be tested. The only thing that Satan couldn't do was take Job's life. Well, anyway, at that time, I just didn't understand why I kept going to the book of Job. Okay, that verse in chapter 33, yes, that was cool. I was like, oh, okay, well, you give me instructions, yada, yada, right? Well, anyway, I fasted up into November. So that Wednesday in November, for some reason, I couldn't fast that Wednesday. My spirit was bothered and uneasy, and it really wasn't leading me to fast. I didn't understand why I couldn't fast. Well, my husband had gone to his yearly visit at the VA on that day, but he called me and said that the doctor found something strange with his white blood count. So they recommended that he go get checked out at the ER. So I told my husband I felt weird and that I couldn't fast, so, you know, I'll go with him to the ER. Well, you know, me and my husband was not prepared for what was about to come. We went to the ER. We didn't think nothing of it, you know, and for some reason they took all type of blood tests. We were there literally for 8 hours, but during these 8 hours, God spoke to me the most clearest thing I could ever hear. And he said it loud and clear. He said, "Do you trust me?" And I said, you know, shrugging it off, like, of course, God, I trust you. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? And then I started thinking, why would God ask me that? You know, why would he ask me that at a time like this, you know? Nevertheless, so we were there for a long time, and they kept running test after test after test, and they wouldn't tell us anything. And finally, after 8 hours of sitting in the ER in one of those triage rooms, a nurse came in and said, and she said it so nonchalantly. She was like, oh, it looks like leukemia, but we don't know yet. Like, just like that. And I don't know, me and my husband, like, when we heard that, I mean, for me, I know I didn't accept that. I was like, oh, that's probably wrong. You know, she said they don't know. They keep running tests. You know, my husband wasn't accepting that either. So, you know, but then I really started to dwell on the fact that God has said to me, do you trust me? Loud and clear, he said that. Well, Next thing you know, after so long, he was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. So it's like this rare blood cancer. It's really a rare type. Blood cancer, period, is a rare type of cancer. But within the blood cancer, he had even the more rarest type. It was a mixed phenotype between acute myeloid leukemia and something else. I can't think of it right now, but it was more like found in children. Well, anyway, so on November 28th, 2018, he was diagnosed with leukemia. And that was the night he was diagnosed. So from the ER, they sent us upstairs to, so he could be not diagnosed, but treated or whatever. And so, you know, my husband spent exactly 33 days in the hospital. And during this time, y'all was giving me dreams and stuff. It's like, I don't know, me and my husband had our own personal battles within this time that I will have to make a whole nother video for. For this video, I'm just focusing on exactly what was going on and how y'all did things to prepare us and to prepare my husband, you know, for his journey, and not only him but me as well. So, you know, during this time in the hospital, it's like I was going through great spiritual warfare. I mean, this was on a level that, you know, I've gone through it. I know it when I've gone through it, but this was just so crazy. Of course, I'm dealing with my husband having a terminal illness and facing the fact that I might lose him, on top of Satan throwing everything he could at me. So, you know, during this time, it was one night I was in the hospital, and, you know, I never left my husband's side. I would not go home. I stayed there. Like, he would have to beg me to go home and get some rest, and I really didn't want to leave, or whatever the case may be. Well, I was really stressed and really worn out. And during this time, it was one night that I felt a spirit, you know, in a presence of a spirit, like just literally attacking me. I told Henry it felt like somebody was sitting on my chest, like, and I just couldn't breathe, or whatever the case may be. It was just a lot going on. Well, I had a dream around this time, and this dream consisted of me being in a mall, and it's like I had my husband's wallet in my pocket or something, and like this man came out of nowhere and started harassing me, trying to take my husband's wallet from me. And I was fighting him. I was like, help, get off me, get off me. And the people in the mall, I was looking for like at least another guy or something to come and help me, because everybody see this man harassing a woman. And it's like I'm looking around and nobody cares. Nobody's trying to help me. They just looking past me. Nobody cares. And this man was harassing the heck out of me. Like, he was pulling on me. I was trying to run. And the more I run, the more tired I feel. Like, it was just like I was so weak around this man. And he really was trying to get this wallet. And, you know, I was holding on to my pocket, and I happened to run around the corner. And once I ran around the corner, I looked back and I seen this man. He had the man who was harassing me. He had this man in a, like choking him with one hand. Like, he was able to lift this man off the floor. Like, he was holding him with one hand by his throat. And he looked over at me. Now, this man was the most glorious man I've ever seen. I can't explain it. I don't know how to explain it. I know what it is now, but back then I didn't know. But he was like, I don't know how to explain him. I don't know. He looked, I don't know. And somehow he talked to me, but his mouth wasn't moving. But we locked eyes, and it's like he was saying, don't worry, I got you. Keep on running for your husband. Like, he said it just like that. Keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on running for your husband. And from there, I woke up, and I was like, what the heck? And, you know, the spirit interpreted that dream for me, because I told Henry about that. I was like, what the heck? I was really, really praying for Henry and being by his side, and I know what he was going through at that time. And it's more to the story. But I was really taking on the full task to carry for my husband. Well, anyway, the dream, what the spirit was telling me that, what does a wallet represent? Like, I mean, the wallet literally represents the person. Like, everything you might want to know about that person or what type of person, and you can pretty much tell by their wallet and what's in there or whatever the case may be. So I believe the wallet represented my husband, and this demonic entity was literally trying to get at my husband, but he had to come through me. And me running, and then the glorious man I seen that grabbed that demon was an angel sent from God. I mean, I've had dreams like this before where God is confirming to me, like, don't worry, no matter what happens, I got you. Like, he has his angels around his people. Trust and believe, So, and I told my husband about that dream. Well, it's like, at that point in time, remember the dream that I had about the instructions when I was speaking to God in the heavenlies? He brought that back to my remembrance. And this dream confirmed that the instructions that I received was actually for my husband. What I mean is, I was doing certain things in my husband's life at that point in time. Since then, all the way up until his last day, I was doing certain things that it really was God. And now I know this. He was sealing these instructions. He was preparing my husband. My husband had a lot that God wanted straightened out before he took him from this earth. And it's amazing if I really go into detail, but I'm not going to do that right now. So it was just amazing. Even at this time in the hospital, my husband never dreamed. He said he never dreamed a day in his life, okay, or seen things or whatever the case may be. But he told me on his hospital bed, and I don't know, it's like God used that situation. Well, God knows how to reach every single one of us, okay? And, he was able to get into the deep soul of my husband's heart. Like, my husband was very, how can I say it? My husband was like a vault, okay? Like, you wasn't getting in there, honey. You would have had to crack that code. Like, and, I understand my husband been through a lot or whatever. And, it was ways he dealt with things that really wasn't, beneficial to his healing or whatever the case may be. So I guess God used that moment to be able to reach Henry to where, he was able to work with him. So my husband told me one day, this is still in the hospital. All of this stuff was going on in the hospital, okay? My husband told me he had a vision of a baby. And this baby, it's like he said he seen the water broke. And I said, okay, the moment he told me that, because I know me and my husband was trying to have a child, okay? First of all, that wasn't even in the will of God. That was what we wanted, okay? And we figured God was going to give us what we wanted when it should have been the other way around, okay? So if it's not in the will of God, it's not going to happen, period. God had this marriage for a specific purpose, and that purpose has been fulfilled. But now I'm going to tell you in a minute. So when my husband told me that, and he's basically, in his mind, he's like, oh, we're going to have the baby. Like, that's what he said. But I said, honey, the Spirit interpreted something for me just now when you said that. And, he said that was Henry. He made us to understand that Henry, yes, being born again, yes, is an actual event, is the seed of God who conceives you into this new being, a brand new baby, right? That's being born again. Well, Henry was conceived, okay? But Henry was sitting in the womb for so many years. And I believe that had to deal with, things that happened in his life, things like that. That didn't mean he wasn't with God. That didn't mean he didn't know God. That didn't know. His spiritual growth was stunted from hurtful things that was going on in his life, and for him being surrounded by ungodly people, people who play in church but don't really know God, people who, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. Yes, and Henry was married to someone, and so this stunted his growth, and he could never literally be born. So Henry said he saw the water of the birth being broken. I said, wow, and so when God told us that, it was amazing, because of course we're going to jump to the first conclusion, like, oh, we're going to have a baby. But God said, no, this is what that is. You're literally about to be born again. It was through Henry's struggles and through all of that he was going through, he was able to grow, because during this time, my husband started to get closer and closer to God, like more than he's ever been before. And he kept telling me that. He was like, baby, I've never been this close to God in my life, like ever. He never experienced this type of stuff. And it's crazy, because my husband was in the church for years. My husband was a great man. That doesn't mean that, he was on a level where he was supposed to be with God. You know what I'm saying? But this is the mercy of God. God got him to that point. But he was able to deal with personal things in the past that he carried, for so many years, that he was never able to be healed properly, and during this time, he really, really opened up. Like, I seen a different side of my husband, and it was just amazing what God was able to do. Like, seriously, he was carrying these wounds, and he didn't allow himself to be healed. It was things that he couldn't even talk about. But what happens to a wound that is unable to heal? That thing is at risk of getting infected. And infection can kill you. Infection could spread to the entire body, and it can kill you. Well, God is here to heal us. We ain't supposed to be walking around like broken people. God is a healer, and he's able to heal us, but we have to let him heal us, period. We do. And so, these are the things that was happening. There was another time Satan was mad. Oh yes, Satan was coming after us with everything he had at this point, because I guess he had Henry down for so long, you know what I'm saying, that now these things were being broken off of Henry's life, just like me. It's just amazing to even really grasp the concept how God did all of this. But yes, Satan was mad one day. This is all in the hospital still. We was in the hospital, and I don't know if you guys know, now the hospital it has newer technology and things like that. Well, each patient has its own TV, and the remote is connected to the patient's bed. Now, Henry had his own room, right? Nobody can change that television but Henry. If he picks up the remote that was connected to his bed, and press the channel. Well, one day, we all sitting in the room, the nurse was in there changing Henry's dressing or whatever, and all of a sudden the TV turned to channel 66, and I said, that was weird, and I was the only one that seen that. I said, baby, did you turn that TV? He said, how could I turn the TV? The remote is all the way over there. I said, okay, whatever. Next thing you know, the channel turns again to the channel 6. I lied to you not. And this time everybody saw. I saw, the nurse saw, and Henry saw. And I was like, yo. And I looked at Henry. I said, Henry, do you know what that means? And he said, yes, see, because Henry started to learn these things, okay, when he was with me, because apparently Satan always made himself known in my life. So I said, you know what that means? That's 666, right? And I said, that was cute, and I asked the nurse, because the nurse was baffled by that. And I asked her, I said, is it any possible way that anybody can turn these TVs except for the patient who's connected to the bed? And she says no, she has never seen that in all the years that she's been working at the hospital, that she's never seen anything like that. So we had witnesses, okay? I mean, Satan was really pissed off, and that was his way of making himself known, like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, but he's an intimidator, but he can't really stop the will of God. So, that was cute. My husband seen that, and we just both shook our heads. Well, anyway, my husband came out of the hospital after 33 days, and I'm skipping details, I'm skipping treatment, I'm skipping everything, because I'm just focusing on what God was doing at this point. So my husband came out the hospital, whatever, and everything seemed to be going good, or whatever the case may be. Well, Henry had a dream. This was around April of 2019. So he was already home. He came home around, he got out the hospital New Year's Eve, and so he was home. And so around April, Henry told me this dream, and he was in the mall, and he said all of a sudden, it was a lot of people in the mall, but he said all of a sudden there was an attacker that came into the mall, and he started shooting up the mall, and he said so many people lost their lives, and it was just a bunch of carnage. And he said that it just started getting darker and darker and darker, and to the point where you couldn't even see. If you hold your own hand out in front of you, you couldn't even see where you was going. It was that dark. And he said for some reason he just started crying uncontrollably, and he didn't understand why he was crying, but he said he just started crying uncontrollably. And he said that he was dressed up in like a military gear or whatever, like he was in a war or something like that. And he said he was wounded, and he said somebody came and grabbed him and put his arm around him and tried to help him, and he was trying to make it out the mall. And he said the closer and closer he made it, he tried to make it out to the exit, and he seen that there was this light getting brighter and brighter the closer and closer he got. And basically he made it out, he said, and he woke up. Well, as Henry, first of all, this is just so crazy, because Henry told me he has never dreamed a day in his life. Never ever has he had a dream. And this is huge. This is significant that he's even, able to dream. Well, the Holy Spirit, as Henry was telling me this dream, I don't know what it is. I guess like the Holy Spirit, like my gift is interpretation or something. I don't know. But it seemed like I was able to interpret spiritual things through the Holy Spirit, because as Henry was telling me this, the Spirit was telling me what everything meant. But it also reminded me of the dream that I had when I was in the mall and I had Henry's wallet and this and that. So Henry's dream was interpreted into, okay, so the mall stood for the world. You understand? The mall, you go to the mall, you have everything you ever want. The lust of the eyes. You can have anything you want, from clothes, jewelry, even food, right? So the mall represented the world. Well, that being said, this attacker that came into the world and started shooting up people, right, is of course the devil. Okay? So as he was taking out people, Henry said, as time went on, it just got darker and darker, more carnage, more death. He couldn't see anything, in front of him because it was so dark. And that is understandable, because God said in the last days it's going to be darker, get darker and darker. It's going to be worse and worse. And of course, not that many people are going to make it. But Henry saw himself, like, first of all, Henry said he was wounded. And yes, we are in the army of God. Like, we are soldiers. There's a war happening here. Henry said he was dressed up in military gear. And so, he said he was wounded. Yes, we are going to be wounded in this lifetime. Yes, Satan is going to throw everything he can at us. So yes, Henry was wounded. But the fact that he said somebody came and helped him, like, you ever seen the, military movies or whatever the case may be, when they say leave no soldier behind, or you know what I'm saying? So this person came and got Henry to help him to the finish line. And that's so crazy, because the Holy Spirit made me realize that was me. Like, it's so crazy how our dreams connected. Henry has never dreamed a day in his life, but I guess the closer and closer he was getting to the spiritual realm, because he was dying, you understand? But that was months and months before he died. But he I was the one running in the mall with Henry, not letting Satan get him, and the instructions. It's just amazing how God does things. The instructions that I was tasked for, I would minister to Henry. I would prophesy to Henry. It wasn't me. It was the Holy Spirit telling Henry the things he needed to hear and what he needed to fix before God took him out this world. Neither of us knew this, right? But this is why we're supposed to be used as vessels for God. Like Henry was used to get me straight. And then God turned around once I got straight and started using me for Henry. So, both of our dreams connected, but Henry basically saw the end of the world. He really did, because he's seen, of course he made it through. He said not that many people are going to make it. I mean, this is so significant. It's just amazing to even understand this, and the fact that God allowed my husband to see and to tell me that dream, and for us to put two and two together, for God to show us what he was trying to do. God always knows what he's doing. He knows best, and we might not like how he does things. I mean, trust me, because I had to get that out of my system real fast. I mean, God's way is always the best way, but we want things done our way. But, it's not supposed to be like that. But, this marriage has really opened my eyes, me and my husband. I mean, God was getting him right before he took him home. And that was the ultimate act of love and grace. It was a blessing, And so, a week before Henry died, because I'm just skipping all the way. I'm just telling you the certain parts that need to be shared. I'm not saying everything right now, but a couple of weeks before Henry died, I had a dream. I had a dream that I was in this funeral home. I went into this funeral home and I saw a baby in the casket. I mean, and people were sitting around, and of course everyone was sad or whatever, and I went up to the casket. I mean, just to see this baby. It was a baby no more than a couple of months old. I mean, it was crazy just to see the baby dead in a casket. I mean, this baby was dead. It was embalmed and everything, okay? And it's like within my heart, as I was standing there at the casket looking down at the baby, I said, if only God can raise this child from the dead. I didn't say it out loud. I just said it in my heart, like, just like that. And lo and behold, the baby sat up. It came back to life, and I grabbed the baby and was like, oh my God, like the baby was dead. The baby was embalmed. Like, how is this baby alive? Like, you know what I'm saying? And I woke up and I told Henry about that dream, and I was like, I don't know what that mean. I don't know what that mean. And of course I had my own interpretation, like, oh, well, you know what? If you do die, Henry, you know what? God could raise you from the dead, like of course I didn't want my husband to die. I was not accepting that. I don't care what was being said. I kept saying, God can heal Henry. God can heal Henry. And yes, he could have, if that was in his will. Of course he could have healed anybody from anything. Nothing is too hard for God. But it was a specific purpose. And of course, we all have to die. That's number one. We all have to die. We are all, before we even come into this world, we have a set day and time to die. Before we even enter into this world. So it was already set in stone. So, of course, if it was in God's will to heal Henry, he would have. But there was a purpose. And so, and I took from that dream, like, oh, even if Henry does die, oh, God's going to raise him from the dead. Like, I was not accepting the fact that, my husband might die and that would be it, But, after everything, the spirit finally, because I could not understand that dream. I just took it for that, like, oh, he could raise him from the dead. Like, oh yeah. After Henry died, and after a couple, like literally, I was dwelling on that dream, and I was like, well, what did that mean, God? Like, after everything that happened, Henry died and this and that. I did not understand that dream, and he brought back into my remembrance the vision that my husband had when he was in the hospital of the baby and the water being broken and the baby finally being born. And of course, we know that the baby was Henry. And the fact that I seen this baby in the casket and the baby risen after death, it was resurrected. And that was God telling me that Henry made it in. Okay? We don't understand what it takes to make it into the kingdom of heaven. I mean, it's so much. He said he's coming back for a church without spot or blemish. Okay, if there's unfinished things in your life and God happened to call you home, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? That's a scary thing, to die without, being right with God or getting things straight. You understand what I'm saying? So, God was gracious enough. I mean, wow, to allow my husband to, you know what I'm saying? This is amazing. This is the love that he had for Henry. This is the love he has for all of us, first of all, okay? And, Henry was a faithful servant, but Henry was broken and battered. Henry was deceived a lot as well, as we all are on some type of facet in our lives. We don't even know that we're wrong, okay, because we were deceived. And so, he was able to break all of that in my husband's life. But basically, that dream was showing me that Henry made it in. He is not dead. He is not dead. If you die in your sins, yes, you're going to have to suffer the second death. But if you die in Christ, guess what? Because my husband was able to let God in and heal him and let God do what he do best, because that was the one thing my husband really never knew how to open up, okay? And this was not allowing God to do what he needed to do in Henry's life, okay? So because of that and everything that God has accomplished in this marriage, Henry was able, because when he died, I was by myself, okay? And I watched my husband take his last breath. And I never really told anybody this. It's crazy, because I thought that I would be broken and shattered. This was the thing that I feared the most. You understand me? But when it actually happened and I'm sitting there and I'm watching, I talked to my husband. My husband literally went into the hospice house around 8 o'clock that night. And by 1:49 that morning, he took his last breath. So it wasn't that long that he was on this earth after he started declining really bad. So all that time I was just talking to Henry, talking, telling him what needed to be said and encouraging him and comforting him and whatever the case may be. And, when he took his life, it's like he waited for a nurse to come in the room, because he didn't want to leave me alone. I kept saying to him, I said, baby, if you're trying to hold on, don't worry about me. If God is calling you home, go, because I'm going to be all right. I'm a survivor, period. And I have God now. So, you know what I'm saying? So I was telling him things like that. And like he waited for the nurse. It's like he waited for the nurse to come in the room. And when she came in the room, he took his last breath. It's like he didn't want me to be alone when that happened or something. So it was just amazing. And at that time, I felt complete peace. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. I knew that God was there. I felt his angels shielding me. I was at complete peace, and I've never witnessed anything like that before. My husband just died. I'm sitting next to my husband's dead body, holding his hand. His hand is still warm. And I should be destroyed. You understand me? But and then that's not even the craziest part. The craziest part is I started witnessing to the nurse who was in the room. How could I have been in that position to be able to do that when I literally just watched my husband die? I knew it's God, because I did not have that in me to even do something. And whatever I was saying to this lady needed to be said to her for her own personal walk. I don't even remember half of the stuff that I was telling her. You understand? Wow. God is amazing, because really where I come from, I've always wanted someone to love me, and God finally gave me that person, and then boom, he's gone, And so that, to me, the old me, I would have been destroyed. I probably wouldn't be here right now. That's just who I was back then. I wouldn't be here. And there's a lot more that took place before my husband was even diagnosed with cancer. There was so much more that took place within this household, and it was not even between me and my husband, but it was between me and my child. Okay, so when I tell you, basically, I lost my entire family in the span of a year. I lost my entire family. So I should be completely destroyed. Okay, but this is God's will. This is his will. This is his doing, and I trust him because God will never lead you to your demise. He will never lead you to your destruction. And I remember his words. That's what brings me comfort. Do you trust me? We might not understand why God do things or how he does things. We're just knowing that we feel hurt right now. We confused and we don't understand. But I know God enough to know that I know he knows what he's doing. And he would have never brought me this far. He would have never opened up himself to me or my husband. He would have never. My husband knew that he was going to die. Okay? I'm sure God showed him this, and there was things my husband was telling me. He looked at me one day, and I told him, I said, baby, would you ever forget me? And he said, I would never forget you. You're the love of my life. I thank God for giving me a husband like him. I mean, he definitely was my soulmate, and God used us both to help each other. He was preparing Henry on his journey, and he was preparing me for this next step in my life, because I'm really in strange territory right now. Since my husband died, Satan has been coming at me with everything he got. I mean, from the time my husband stopped breathing, literally hours after he stopped breathing, Satan started throwing everything at me, everything that he could. And this is what he does. But now I understand. Thank you, Father Yah. Because why God kept bringing me to the book of Job month after month after month, I understand now. So Satan, whatever he can throw at me, whoever he can use, there's been traps and snares that the devil has set to try to destroy me in my moment of vulnerability. But I have God, and no matter what Satan throws at me, he will not win. He can't. Because I know if God be for me, who can be against me? My enemies laugh and pray for my downfall, but yet they don't understand that I already have the victory, period. So God is good. This marriage, I couldn't have asked for anything more. I couldn't have asked for anything more. There were several dreams that I had during the time of Henry being in the hospital. I've seen certain things. Like there was this one dream that I had where I was in a dark place. I don't know. It's like I was in a spiritual realm, but it was dark. And there was I was surrounded by many entities, like wicked spirits and stuff. And it's like I started separating them and picking them apart. It was things God was showing me all the time during my husband being, sick and in the hospital. All these things I've witnessed in the hospital. Yeah, so that dream represented me having discerning of spirits, because not only that, I was able to call out certain spirits that my husband had within him that was not allowing him to grow. And once I was calling him out, he was being delivered. Like seriously, this is the type of stuff that God has tasked me with. Hey, you can't brag about these things. God is God. Is the power of God working through you as a vessel. It's not your power. It's God himself, and he's using you to get his will done, period. I had another dream where it was about these lions. Okay, so it was crazy, but God told me what that meant too. And this, mind you, this is all in the span of me and my husband going through what we was going through with his sickness and everything like that. It was a lot of spiritual activity going on in this marriage, because, it was Satan trying to stop God's will. He knew that my husband was on his way out of here, and he wanted to stop. He wanted my husband's soul. That's what he wanted. I mean, that's for real. But anyway, so this dream consisted of this lion being, I saw this lion. It's like somebody opened the door, and this lion came running out to me, and I was sitting on the couch, and I was frozen solid. I was scared to move. And then it's like God said, within my own heart, God was speaking to me. Like, this lion was just kept circling me, growling at me, sniffing at me, or trying to intimidate, waiting for me. It's like it could smell out fear, and the moment it did, it would have ripped my head off. I mean, it was all over me, and I was just staying still, and God was saying within me, do not be afraid. Remember what I've done with Daniel. I shut the mouths of the lions. When you have fear, you give him power. Like, this is what God was telling me, and through his words, it's like I had no choice not to be afraid. Imagine being in that situation where you are being sized up by a freaking vicious lion, and if he senses one little sniff of fear, he gonna rip your head off. Like, so, it was a dream like that, and I told my husband about it. I said, God is warning us about fear, so we shouldn't be fearing. Of course, that was a difficult time not to fear, though. But see, these are the things that God was showing us and telling us and helping us along. Like, literally, he really was, and it was just amazing. I promised my husband that I would tell what happened and share his testimony, share our testimony, and show what a marriage is truly about and what God used this marriage for. Me and my husband was just thinking on fleshly terms, like, okay, get married, have babies, live happily ever after. But with God, it's on a higher level. It's on a spiritual level. And we have to be willing. If we say we want him in our lives, to be God in our lives, we're going to have to let him do things his way. He is God. He's supposed to have control over everything. We're supposed to be following him. And we're supposed to be wanting what he wants, not what we want. So I learned to accept the will of God, because at the end of the day, the will of God is perfect. And he said, all things work together for good for those who love the Lord. No matter what it may seem, or whatever the case may be, just know, remember his promises, period. But it's very important not to be living in sin, because Satan will have dominion over you. And I came to realization, especially after my husband died, I kind of backslid. I fell into sin. I was mad at God. I was dealing with a lot, but I shook out of that real fast, because I realized what was at stake here. And I can't afford. When I tell you, God tell us not to sin for a reason. It's not because he want to be strict and he don't want us to have no fun and we have to have a boring life. You see, because in our minds, sin is fun. Sin is living life. This is what's being promoted. But God is telling us not to sin for a reason. I can't afford to sin. If I'm found in sin, now Satan has dominion and authority over me, and he can screw up my life and hurt me and do whatever he wants to do, because I'm giving him legal right to do it. Again, we don't understand the laws of the spiritual realm. We don't understand the laws that were set in stone before we were even here. If we're caught in sin, Satan has dominion. If you are righteous, he cannot touch you, period. But Job was a righteous man. And this is what God wants me to realize. Job was a righteous man, but Job was given over to the hands of Satan. Not because Job was a sinful man, but because it was the will of God. He used Job to show us it was a bigger picture. Even thousands of years ago, Job didn't understand why, God, why? I don't understand why I'm going through this, and why is this happening to me? We're not going to understand, but it's always for somebody's benefit. God uses us to bless each other. And when we don't want to be used by God, guess what? You know what I'm saying? It's all about him healing us through each other, us being there and loving one another. But see, we too busy living for ourselves, being selfish. No, we don't understand none of that. Okay? If Job didn't allow God to do what he needed to do in his life, guess what? We would have never known today, when we look back on the story of Job, how things work. That was a peep into the spiritual realm. Did you see that Satan has to go to God and ask permission? Satan just can't do whatever he want to do with the righteous people of God. He has to go to God and ask permission. Hey, can I go over there and bother her? Can I go over there and screw things up? I guarantee you she'll curse you. I guarantee you, because that's what Satan wanted to prove to God about Job. Oh, you gave him everything. Of course he's going to be, worshiping you and doing that. But I bet you if you allow me to take away everything that you give him, I bet you he will curse you. And that was the one thing that Job didn't do. Even through all his downfalls and misfortunes, he never cursed God. And God let Satan do it. He was like, okay, fine, go ahead. You can do whatever you want. Just don't take his life. And Satan, this is what he does. He come at you from every angle all at once. Job got the news that his flock was destroyed. At the same time he was getting this news, somebody else came in and told him that his child died. At the same time, somebody else, like, these people wasn't even finished telling Job what they were saying, and it was just more and more and more coming to. This is what Satan do. He tries to destroy the children of God. He hates us with all his might. If you decide to live for God, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not an easy life. I don't care what you see on TV where they feel like, oh, if you have such blessings in your life, that means God is with you. Absolutely not. He said the wicked prosper on this earth. Envy not the wicked. He said that the people of God is going to be persecuted. We are going to be tried in these last days. Persecution does not mean death. You understand? Because people don't understand what words mean. Persecuted means to pursue. Like somebody is pursuing you. And that's Satan. Satan is pursuing the children of God, trying to destroy them, trying to make them lose faith in God, trying to get them to stumble off that path. Period. This is what he's sent to do. And so if you look, Jesus himself was a man of many sorrows. That's what the Bible said. Jesus had a hard life. When you choose to live for God, you really in your heart love God and want to do right, the world gonna make you feel wrong for it. The cost is great. I lost everything. I'm telling you right now, the cost is great when you're willing to try to live for God. Is a hard task. I'm telling you, because not only the external forces are fighting against you. Satan will use your family members, even your close friends will turn and start showing crazy that it is Satan operating through these people to get you to, you know what I'm saying? So it's not a game. But not only that, you have your own flesh fighting against you on a daily basis. This is what Jesus was telling us. I don't know where these preachers getting prosperity from and all of this stuff. When you truly trying to live for God, look at everybody in the Bible who tried to live for God. Look at the suffering that they went through. All the disciples, they all end up getting killed. Everybody, all the people, trust me, because Satan wants you to pay. He's gonna make you pay and make you feel like you chose wrong. He does not like any type of sign of God. He hates it, and he wants to destroy it out of his kingdom, because this is his kingdom. So brothers and sisters, I'm telling you right now, this is my testimony as far as what it has to do with my marriage with me and Henry. This was a very special marriage. And it was definitely put together by God, if we haven't seen that already. Because, again, we had issues in the beginning with anybody accepting us being together. I mean, this was not our doing. I definitely wasn't looking for no husband, number one. I was definitely not looking at Henry as a potential candidate for somebody to be, my boyfriend or whatever the case may be in my life. Henry definitely was never attracted to no younger women. I mean, my husband used to tell me all the time, young women are wild. He's scared of them. He stay away from them. It was something me and Henry was fighting in the beginning. Like, what's going on here? Like, we felt like Satan was trying to mess with us going, as we grew closer to each other. We didn't understand what was going on. But see, God has his ways. Okay, this is who God is. You will never see him coming. It's always going to look different because God is separate. He told us to be separate, be different. Okay, his people is a peculiar people. You're not going to understand. You're not going to comprehend. It's something different, never seen before. This is who God is, and we would have never guessed this. I would have never guessed this. My husband would have never guessed this. It was an amazing thing that happened, and it just proved it by everything that was going on in our marriage. I mean, to think about it, God always knew when Henry was going to die. We didn't. And God brought us together in the last years of Henry's life and was able to do what he did through both of us. Because not only did Henry help me, but I helped Henry. And really, it wasn't us. We were just instruments for each other. It was God himself declaring his will in the earth, and this is what he does, and this is who he is, and this is what it's all about. Is not to give us fast cars and riches and houses. God don't care nothing about that. He will put your flesh through the fire before he care about giving you any type of riches of the world. He trying to give you the riches of his kingdom, not of this one. He only cares about your soul. And people don't understand that. The people who run the church every Sunday asking God for this and that of the world. He's not here to give you things of the world. He is not the God of this world. Satan is the God of this world. That's why Satan is known for giving people the things of this world. That's why God told us not to love the things of this world. I'm telling you right now, I am content with everything that God has fulfilled me on every level. I don't need nothing else but him. Even though my husband is going like I'm by myself, I'm not by myself because I have God. When I tell you I'm fulfilled, I don't need nothing in this world to fulfill me because I'm already fulfilled by the Most High Yah. And you know what? In the book of Job, I understood. Job suffered great losses, and all of that, the only thing he asked God for was to never leave him or forsake him. Okay, so I understand that on a great level. If I don't have Yah, I have nothing. And that's the only thing that I ask. And I know God will never leave. He said that I will never leave you or forsake you. He said nobody can separate you, not tribulation, not any angel, not the devil himself. Nothing can separate us from the hand of God. So now that my husband is gone, and when that happened, I was asking God, I don't understand why. You gave me a wonderful husband and then you took him away. And he reminded me of my prayer. And, of course, I prayed for a godly man so I can get closer to God. And he told me that has been fulfilled because that was his will for my life all along. That's why he answered that prayer, because it was according to his will. I didn't ask for no car or house or money. I asked for a godly man so I could be closer to God. God turned this man into my husband. That was a shocker to me. Never would have thought I would be married. But yes, the purpose has been fulfilled. Yes, I am closer to God now. And now, I guess God is going to use me to touch other people or to help other people whoever he's bringing into my life. There's new people that has came into my life since Henry died. Yes. And so I can only go off of the leading of the Holy Spirit. I don't know what these people need. I don't know what to say, but God does, and he will work. That's why I have to stay clean and I have to be a vessel to God. I cannot allow, I don't want to hinder his will. It's no longer, Jesus said something. He said, those who lose their life for my sake will gain it. And I've always thought, that means, we're going to have to die. And so if we die for God, we're going to gain life. But, the Holy Spirit made me realize something. He said, look at when Jesus walked this earth. Jesus ain't had a life of his own. No, he didn't. He didn't have a place to rest his head. He moved when the Spirit told him to move. He went where he went. He didn't have no life. He didn't go partying. He didn't have no friends. He didn't know. He was only being used by the Father to bring out the will of God. That's all he cared about. It was always about his Father's business, always about doing the will of God. He didn't have no life because he gave his life to God. And so I have to be willing to walk that path. Oh yes, not many people, everybody talking about they following Jesus, but yet, okay, they don't actually understand what it means. Few will find it, people. It's a hard road, and it will show. It will show what's really in your heart, because my true desire is the things of the Father, to please him. I don't want to hurt him anymore. I don't want to hurt people that I love, and God is first in my life above any and everybody, period. And I refuse to take a part in hurting him. He has enough of that every day. And so I'll do what it takes. I don't care how much I lose, who look at me crazy, what people gotta say, or oh, she thinks she's better, oh, this and that. I don't care, because now I know what it takes, and I know God. I have to know him to be able to be willing to go through what I'm going through. I could so easily turn and do what I want. I could so easily, you know what I'm saying? I was mad at God at the beginning. But at the end of the day, I know better. I know better, and I know Satan hates me with a passion. And I refuse to allow him to win over my life. So if that means that I have to fight sin every day, guess what? I'm going to fight sin every day, because I know what I'm up against. I know what God has showed me and told me. And so this is what it means, brothers and sisters. This marriage right here was definitely put together by God himself. And he did what he needed to do. And I'm blessed to be able to even witness something like that, and to be a part of that, and to have the understanding. And I'm blessed. I really am. Though it seemed like I'm not, I'm blessed. My husband was truly blessed. It's amazing. God is God. He is who he is, period. So I hope that somebody take from this understanding, get a better understanding who God is, and to see something that they've never seen before. This is who God is. And if I have to tell my life story to give him glory, that's what I'll do, because he did say that we shall overcome the Antichrist with our testimony. And I've realized that in my life that there's been people trying to downplay my testimony, but I know that's how I'm overcoming Satan and giving the glory to God. So y'all have a blessed day, and remember, continue to seek him, because time is running out. And that's one thing I do know for sure. So get your souls right, people, with God. Love you. God bless.
We don't worry for tomorrow. No, I hire, I provide.
Kelly spraying through the Benjis, nigga.
Me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, yeah, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, yeah, me and the Mosai. I'm so low, my walk on that road, it's me and the Mosai. I'm so low, my walk on that road, it's me and the Mosai. Me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, yeah, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, yeah, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai. Father who art in heaven, what it take to keep you from me? Just a little leaven. Spread the gospel through the hood, doing it through rapping. Feel just like me and God trapping souls, bringing the truth to the people, telling what they never been told. You sitting on gifts you were given and doing nothing with them. I swear that you niggas is dumb. Just bet you should know. I know that some of you think that I'm playing with completion. I'm not. I'm ready to drop. Been ripping the work in the studio, serving it out to the block. Quam, rah. Tried to live life on my own and I found that it's not what I thought. A place to a higher, but Hashim Yeshaya, my soul not for sale, it was already booked. I'm ready for y'all to stop trying to stop easy, trying to say he wicked when really he not. It's really a plot for Judah to hate you in the dark to try to come take what you got. Woo, listen, the truth hit hard, harder than a gamble. Better be known as a saint than your favorite rapper. Michael Jackson band, no melodrama. Random, but it's still just me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. I'm so low. My walk on this road is me and the Most High. I'm so low. My walk on this road is me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. 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 Me and the Most High.
Solo, rolling 4 deep. We're rocking y'all shit in my OG. I feed the flock to lose no sheep. Yeah, no sheep, no Lil Bo Peep. X5 and 29, I choose the father over man every time. Like coke addicts, I drop heavy lines. No word, all actions, pantomime. They said I never seen a Judah with a flow like that. I said I never seen a Judah with a glow like that. He gave me seeds that I never seen grow like that. Track 5 bars, gas about to blow like that. I'm good, but my lonely. I let the father build up my team. I go where he shows me. I need no blind guy to show me. Matthew 15, verse 14, he told me to just let them be. They strain at gnats and swallow camels when they should be following me. Woe to them, yes, woe not, cause time soon come when it goes down. He came with a sword not to bring peace. Cinderella at midnight, I must leave. I struggle for a minute, I was Judah straight coasting. Shine when I rhyme, but a Judah ain't boasting. The Bible I pick up, I fall and I get up. Got living water that I swallow for hiccups. Let that marinate. I will rock with me, myself, and I live life like I'm fasting. I need nothing, just me and the Most High.
Me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. I'm so low. My walk on this road is me and the Most High. I'm so low. My walk on this road is me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. 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 Me and the Most High